Okay, Prabhuji. So the question is, why a person who can sing by herself cannot do it when there's somebody? Why there's a stage fear? Why performance is not good when there's a other person?
Okay, so very wonderful question. Okay, actually, you are speaking of a actual case, actual situation. I was also there in that situation. I saw the person is a very good singer, but the moment the person is able to sit in front of other people, the person is not able to sing. I saw that situation, right? So we are speaking of that situation, right? So now let us understand what happens to us. The moment we see others, there's a duality. Where there is others, there's a duality and there's a fear. And where there is a fear, immediately our flow will cut. So the person whom we are speaking of is a good musician. I've heard that person singing by herself in a beautiful way. But in front of the people, the speech gets cut. This is the situation we are speaking of, right? So now the same thing is true for a public speaking also. There are many people who say, in front of the people, I'm not able to speak. Okay, in front of the people, I'm not able to speak. But I know very well that person has the ability to speak well. Whereas in front of people, the communication doesn't happen. What we call a stage fear. So what they have done, there's a research which is done all over the world, okay, which says what is the greatest fear for human beings? We think that it's a death. No. The stage fear is the greatest fear for human beings. When I want to speak in front of people, I'm afraid. The whole tongue gets cut. You are not going to speak. Are we clear? So now, why this is happening? Because when there are many people are sitting, or more than one person sitting, I see the other. There's no me and the other. And other people are evaluating. So 10 people are evaluating me. When there is other, there's a duality. When there is other, Advaita. And all dualities are fear. So the fear rises in us. Then we are not able to perform, not able to sing, not able to teach, not able to talk of the duality. So when we see the other, we become self-conscious. Means I become conscious of myself as the singer. I become conscious of myself as a speaker. The self-consciousness comes into picture when you see the other. Understand? So now, who has the self-consciousness? The ego, intellect has the conscious mind has the self-conscious mind, self-conscious comes. Our conscious mind is seeing the world. The conscious mind is responsible for interacting in the world. The conscious mind is like a driver. So he has to be careful what happens to me. So now when many people are evaluating me, the conscious mind says, oh, there's a danger for my identity. If I am a musician, what will happen if people say I'm not a good musician? That identity, conscious mind evaluates in terms of fear. So then conscious mind tells subconscious mind, don't sing because people will evaluate you. Don't talk because people will evaluate you. Because conscious mind is the master. So this is what happens. When you are alone, you sing well. But when you are in a group, you are not able to sing well because you have become conscious of your identity. And who becomes conscious of identity? Your conscious mind, whereas the ego is coming up. Let us look at the other situation. A child has no self-identity. There's no self-consciousness. In that sense, the child is able to play and do irrespective of people surrounding. But as the child becomes old, little bit old, developing self-identity, child sings well. But in front of the strangers, it is not able to sing well. No, no, I can't sing. Because already it has developed self-consciousness. A child without self-consciousness is able to do everything naturally. Okay. A Gnani is not self-conscious when he is interacting with other people, because he has no self-identity. The self-identity, oh, I'm a Gnani, okay, I'm a good speaker, that self-identity is not there. So that means the resistance of the intellect is gone. The resistance of the ego is gone. Why? Because he does not see any other sitting there. There's no other. His own self sitting there. There's no duality for him. There's no other. Then you say, why Gnani teaches? So Gnani teaches not for the others. For him, all the people, 1 people, person, 10 people, 100 people, are nothing but his own reflections coming there. So my reflection in the mirror has a black spot. So I am removing the black spot in my face. So Gnani, when he teaches, don't be under the impression that he is teaching other. He says, okay, this person has ignorance, this person is suffering. There's no person there. There's myself only. My reflection is coming. My reflection has a defect. So let me remove the defect. So now he is not removing the defect in the people who are listening. He says the defect is in me. I am correcting my defect. In the process of teaching, he is removing the ignorance in him. He is not teaching to anybody else. He is teaching to himself in the form of people who are coming. That's where how a guru operates. Don't be under the impression that guru knows everything and he teaches. Instead of guru, the moment somebody comes in front of him with ignorance, he sees, oh, my own self is coming in the form with the ignorance. My own reflection is coming with the ignorance. So I have to remove that ignorance. For that, he teaches to himself in front of the mirror. I remember my old days. I used to be in school. So then I learned that when I have teaching is the best way to learn. So I used to have a group of classmates whom I come and teach subjects, science, mathematics I teach. And the more I teach, the more clarity will come. So then I realized many times these students are not there. Then what I used to do, I used to have a mirror in front of my house, in me. In front of the mirror, I used to teach to myself. And when I teach myself, I am the student, I am the master. I am the teacher. I used to explain the concept of science clearly to my reflection. So then my understanding of science, physics, chemistry become much more clear. So I am teaching to my own reflection. So that is the understanding a master has. So all the people who are coming there are his own reflections. He is teaching himself in that process. That's where his clarity is. So your self-consciousness goes when you understand there is no other. You are teaching yourself. That's why a musician, when he sings beautifully, there's no musician, there's no self-identity, there's no audience, only music is there. There's no duality at all. But the moment, oh, audience is there, they're listening to me, the duality comes, self-consciousness comes. He's not able to sing properly. So there was a great ballet dancer. Okay. So the ballet dancer, they like, you can see the ballet dancer, right? They are gentle movements. They feel as if they are floating. Okay. So one ballet dancer was there. He appeared to be floating in the air all the time. It's like anti-gravity. So people asked him, gravity is not affecting you. You are always floating. How? He says, when I am dancing, I'm not self-conscious, I'm dancing. I'm not conscious that the audience is there. When I'm dancing, only dance is there. Only when dance is there, there's no gravity at all. Natural laws don't apply. I float. The moment I think that I'm dancing, immediately will come down to earth, gravity will come. This self-consciousness is the problem. Because our conscious mind is the gatekeeper, naturally, because our conscious mind has to protect us from the society and environment. The gatekeeper becomes very alert. He will not allow anybody to come. He will close the gate. He will not allow anybody to go out. No talent to go out, nothing to come inside. He closed the gates because of fear. Only when you lose that there is other. When you are sitting for singing, understand that you are singing for yourself. Other people are listening. It's your own reflection. Then your singing will be beautiful. That's true for anything, singing, teaching, talking. The moment you say people are listening, you become self-conscious, you are problem. Now, from self-consciousness to self-awareness, you have to move. Okay. What is self-consciousness? I have identity. I am a musician. I'm a teacher. I'm a guru. That's a self-identity. And self-identity can dissolve anytime. Self-identity is always under threat. Oh, I'm a musician. There's another person who sings better than me. There's a threat for self-identity. That's why the conscious mind or ego closes the gate. When you become self-aware, then there's no self-identity. What is self-awareness? Nanimbudu, nanalla, ideha, manabuddhi, nanalla, sachidanandatma, shivananani, shivoham, shivoham. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the intellect, I'm pure consciousness. That is self-awareness. I'm aware of myself. For me, there's nothing to lose because Atma is always present. Atma, there's nothing to lose. Atma has no birth, Atma has no death. The fear will go. Okay. So this is the state where anything which flows very naturally, because the ego doesn't resist, because there's nothing to lose. No self-identity to lose. Oh, no great leader, no great leader, no guru, nothing to lose is there because the identity is anyway temporary. So in self-awareness, the communication, the actions are a simple flow. There's no ego doesn't block, the conscious mind doesn't block because there's no other. If I am Atma, everybody sitting in front of me is Atma. I am speaking to others, my own self, reflection of my own self in the others. So there's no other. There's no gate to close, no fear to close. The fear will go. So then what will happen? There's a flow. And that flow is beautiful. That's why our ancient people said, Gnani is Saraswati Varaputra. Means, Saraswati means goddess of learning, goddess of Jnana. If Saraswati blesses somebody, the words will flow through the mouth of the person like a river flow. There's no thinking what is to talk, because the deeper whatever is there, it just flow. There's no block, there's no thinking required. If you require thinking, that means ego is coming to picture, because what I have to think, oh, how people will react, that ego will come to picture. The flow comes without the gatekeeper called ego being there. That is called Saraswati Varaputra. And one who has a Saraswati Varaputra is called Saraswata, divine blessing. So Ramakrishna Paramahamsa used to say, if anybody has to teach spirituality, the Divine Mother has to bless him. He says, how he has to bless him, right? So in olden days, we used to use a postal cover. Now post. So now we don't use it, but it's become email. Earlier it used to be letter, used to be that. Letter, when it goes to a postal department, they'll put a seal, stamp. There's a stamp there, they'll put a seal. Then that letter is valid. Then it will be delivered. Without a stamp, the letter will not be valid. The stamp gives an approval. If somebody has to speak about spirituality, the Divine Mother has to put a stamp on his tongue. That's what Ramakrishna Paramahamsa says. The Mother Kali, the Divine Mother, has to put a stamp on the tongue, because when the Divine Mother blesses, the words will flow smoothly. The Divine Mother putting stamp on the tongue means there's no duality. Then only words will flow. Otherwise, words will get blocked. Then you have to think, should I do this or should I not do this? Okay, that is what we call as a Gnani. Words will flow through the mouth of a Gnani, tongue, without ego coming and evaluating is it right or wrong. Only right words will flow. So those are the divine words. Those are the words of wisdom. Those are the words of Paramat Ishvara speaking through the tongue of a Gnani. Ishvara has no ego. So that's where these words which flow through the tongue of a Gnani is called Upanishad. Because there's no individual ego coming into picture, blocking. Okay. So now here is a question. The self-identity, self-ego or self-consciousness is there in a well-trained player also. For example, a tennis player is there. Tennis player, when he plays tennis like a great tennis player, he doesn't think, ego doesn't come into picture. He just, wherever the ball comes, he moves. Another ball comes, he moves. The whole body mind will act without an ego. The body mind complex acting without an ego is tennis play. Then how does the body mind complex act? The body mind complex acts because he has trained the body mind complex for acting without an ego. The whole of training of tennis is bringing the ego act. There's no me and the other. There's only simple play. So then what happened? In that, ego is not there. He is just simply becomes the play game. Then whatever his training comes out beautifully, he'll go and hit the ball. But the moment the ego comes, that gets blocked. Then he'll miss the ball shot. The moment, oh, I have to win the game, the whole thing will game. I'm not. If you are playing a game, then you are not focused on the winning and losing. You're fully involved in the game. Then the ego is not there. The moment you say, no, I have to win, immediately ego comes and blocks. That's what happened to our Olympic shooter. His name is Rathod. Rathod became later Minister of Sports in the government. So Rathod had gone to Olympics. He's a shooter. He shoots. Then he was qualifying for the gold last shot, which is for if he wins that, if he shoots properly, he'll get a gold medal. So now he is holding here. Then he is thinking that, oh, that moment on thought comes. If I miss it, then I'll not get gold. The moment that thought comes, ego has come into picture, fear has come. Then hand starts shaking. So bullet goes 5 centimeters away. And he got a bronze medal instead of gold. So the ego is the gatekeeper. It is required for a protection of our body. But that ego gets dissolved. There's no ego is there in the child. There's no ego. Ego has dissolved in Gnani. And ego is suppressed in case of a tennis player or a good musician, good dancer, suppressed. So Gnani has transcended the ego. A good musician, good dancer has learned how to suppress the ego during dancing or during music. The moment ego comes up, you are in problem. Self-consciousness comes to play. So for a Gnani, whenever he acts or reacts, the self-awareness is, there is no self-consciousness. That's why Gnani is free from fear, anxiety. That's called Stita Pradna Lakshana. Dukkeshu anudigmanaha sukeshu vigatas praha vitaraga bhaya krodha stitaji muruchyate. So he doesn't get depressed. Dukkha, sukha, bhaya, fear and anxiety, anger, raga and dvesha. He doesn't get affected because that's all for the identity. He has transcended with ego. So child has no ego, but ego will develop. It's a dormant ego. So child is natural. Okay. A good musician, good dancer, good player, he knows how to stop the ego while playing. That's why there's a spontaneity. A Gnani has transcended ego. Ego will not come into picture because he sees himself in the world. So the duality is not there. He has transcended. Out of these, the child has a dormant ego. It will come up as it goes. A tennis player, a musician has an ego which is suppressed, but it will come up in other track. When he's not singing, when a tennis player is interacting with the other, goes to a coffee shop, the ego comes up. He has suppressed ego. Whereas a Gnani has transcended the ego. He has become free. When the ego is gone, the self, inner and outer, is gone. There's no inner and outer. There's only one reality. So this one reality calls what we call as Jivan Mukti. One reality. There's a subject to object reality becoming one is called Advaita. Subject and object, I and other, I and the world, I and God. So that one who blocks that ego is transcended. Does it mean that Gnani has no ego? Gnani has an ego, but that's a pure ego. The pure ego means ego does not dominate his action. Ego just obeys. It becomes a servant. Right? You can imagine it like a gatekeeper. Gatekeeper decides who should come into the house, which guest should come. Okay, he himself is deciding. That's the ego, unconscious ego. Whereas Gnani's ego is servant. Master said, hello everybody. So he will allow. So Gnani's ego is the servant of the Atma. Whereas Adnani's ego dominates all his actions. Gnani also ego, for transactional ego. But the transactional ego doesn't block anything. It just flows. It just allows the inner and outer reality become one. Advaita is gone. Advaita for a Gnani. So Gnani will not fall into Adnana again because he has transcended. Whereas child will become ignorant, Adnani, a good prayer musician will have ego outside their field. A Gnani is free from all this. So then, what is the difference between a Gnani and a musician? What is the difference between a Gnani and a good tennis player? A good trained tennis player, a good musician has trained their body-mind complex for singing. It automatically flows. Music will flow. Automatically, tennis will flow. Why? The body-mind complex is programmed. That program only executes. There's no ego gatekeeper coming into picture. The program starts executing. Sing now, it'll start singing. Dance now, it'll start dancing. Who dances? The body-mind complex, which is trained without ego blocking it, will do. Very clear? So now, what is the difference between a well-trained, a musician, well-trained tennis player, and an enlightened person, guru? The difference is, in a well-trained musician, ego is still there. He knows when to suspend the ego, sometime. Whereas Gnani has transcended the ego. So Gnani's ego is a dead ego. It's called pure ego. The pure ego is like a serpent. Ego is like a serpent. The serpent is poisonous for anybody. It hurts us. It creates fear. Whereas Gnani's ego, a serpent without poison. That's why a serpent is there in the neck of Shiva. The neck of Shiva is an ornament. It doesn't hurt him. See, the serpent is here. It can bite here. Poisonous. It doesn't bite him. It's not poison. The poison is removed. The ego's poison is removed, and still ego is used in case of Gnani. Gnani has ego, but the poison called duality is removed from the ego. So then what happens? The ego becomes an ornament in the neck of Shiva. Abharana, showpiece. For a Gnani or for an enlightened one, the ego is a showpiece. He is used for ornamental purpose. It's not necessary part of his body, necessary part of him. It's just a tool for communicating, interaction, for teaching. So this is the difference between a well-trained musician, well-trained dancer who don't have an ego while doing, but ego comes up after that. For a Gnani, ego is transcended. He is using it as an ornament for the purpose. It's a tool. For other person, it's suppressed for a moment. The serpent is held for a moment. When they want to play, then again it comes up. This is the difference between the Gnani and well-trained. Now, what a well-trained musician, what well-trained dancer do, they have go through training program. Keep on training the body, singing, raga, or tala, or tennis. The body-mind is trained. Please understand, only when a body-mind is trained, we are able to perform the actions without an ego. When the body-mind is trained, without body-mind training, we can't do it. How? Let us take the car driving case, driving of the car. Okay, driving of the car, when we are driving the car, you have to remember driving of the car or cooking. Initially, we are so afraid, fear, because ego is coming there. Be careful when to press the brake. Be careful when to press the accelerator. You have to be very careful. Otherwise, what will happen? You are afraid. Fear is there. So then you slowly learn. So our learning is always conscious learning first. Now, once you start learning consciously, it goes into subconscious, means body-mind complex learns it. That means the body-mind complex is your autopilot, and your conscious mind is your pilot. Okay. So now, when the body-mind consciousness is trained, the pilot can go to sleep. So now what happens when you learn to car driving, consciously you learned, with difficulty, with fear you learned. Then after learning, you can go anywhere. The conscious mind can sleep. I mean, I'm not literally sleeping. Conscious mind can think of something else. Oh, what happened tomorrow? What is happening in stock market? All those things you can think. Whereas your body-mind complex is acting and driving. Is it clear? So now, who is doing? Your autopilot is working for actions. Your autopilot is doing actions. Your conscious mind is suspended or not involved in the action. Here also, when you drive, your ego is suspended or ego is in some other action, but your whole body mind is working. Whereas in the case of Gnani, ego is transcended, not suspended. The conscious learning has become unconscious habit pattern in the body mind complex. That's why the driving action is spontaneous. Spontaneous means, when you say spontaneous, not deliberate based on the ego. Ego is always deliberate. Ego always thinks of the future. Oh, what happened tomorrow? What happened yesterday? The fear comes. Ego is always in the future or past. Your body and mind, all spontaneous actions are in the present moment. The child is in this present moment, spontaneous. A musician, when he's singing, he's in present moment, spontaneous. When a dancer is dancing, he's in spontaneous. A tennis player is spontaneous. A Gnani is spontaneous. The difference is, in case of other people, ego is suspended or suppressed, whereas in case of Gnani, ego is transcended. For ego, when ego is transcended, self-consciousness is there, only self-awareness is there. In self-awareness cannot come and go. He has realized himself. In which case, the ego doesn't come back again. It becomes just an ornament. That's called Gnani. Okay. Then all actions of Gnani is spontaneous. Because for him, the deliberation by the ego is stopped. Oh, what happened in the future? What happened tomorrow? What happened yesterday? The past and future is gone. It's always present moment. In the present moment, spontaneous actions come, which is already programmed by the body-mind complex. Right? There's no ego or gatekeeper coming and blocking it. Stops. He can't stop. The ego doesn't stop because ego doesn't see the subject-object duality. The world is one. So then what happens in case of Gnani? All actions of Gnani is spontaneous like a child. But then when you say spontaneous, it is a body-mind complex which is trained, which will spontaneously respond. If something is not trained, it won't come out. For example, a Gnani who was a musician earlier suddenly cannot become a dancer because his body-mind complex is trained for music. A Gnani who is a dancer cannot become a musician because his body-mind complex is trained for music. Only the spontaneity will come because ego is transcended. So Gnani will become a beautiful musician if he was a musician earlier, a beautiful dancer if he was a dancer earlier. He will not change his, oh, I was a dancer earlier, after Gnana I started music. No, it don't work that way. Spontaneity is there. That's why Sri Tyagaraja, he was a great musician. When he got Gnana, his music starts flowing through his mouth. Now, the Divine Mother stamped his tongue. That means the fear is gone, ego is gone, ego is suspended, ego is not suspended, ego is transcended. Then the divine music flows. That began the Pancharatna, the 5 diamond, the 5 beautiful gems of music, Pancharatna from Tyagaraja. After Gnana, Tyagaraja doesn't become a dancer. Tyagaraja becomes a musician. Earlier, the music was there, but music was controlled by the ego. The fear and anxiety, past and future will control. Now the ego is transcended, the music flows. So Tyagaraja sings for Rama. Rama means the entire universe is Rama for him. So Atma Rama and Rama in the form of the world. So there's no duality. He is singing for Rama. Then the music is beautiful. The moment you sing for people, then the music is problem, because there are people. That's why Tansen was a great singer. Tansen was a great singer. Akbar was appreciating music of Tansen. One day he played Deepaka Raga. When you say Deepaka Raga, the lights in the lamp start. There should be lamps in the palace. All lamps started lighting up. Such a beautiful music. So Akbar says, you are a great musician. Okay, I have not seen anybody musician who can light the lamp with the singing. It is said that music has the power of raining also. That's called Megamalar. Deepak Raga has the ability to light. A great musician can do that. So then Akbar says, then Tansen says, Maharaja, I am nobody. My guru is great. Then Akbar says, bring your guru here. Tansen says, he can't come here. He will not come here. We have to go there. So then Akbar and Tansen go to his guru. His guru is living in a forest and he is singing. Then the entire environment is still. The animals, the birds, everything is stillness. They become one with music. Even the air stops, the wind stops, the trees stop. The stillness, total stillness is there. So then Akbar goes and says, you are a great musician. You are actually controlling the entire nature. Then the guru says, then Akbar says, please come to my asthana. I'll give you a lot of money, power. I'll make you the court musician. That person says, no, 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 no. Guru of Tansen says, I sing beautifully because I am singing for God. Okay. When I come to your asthana, when you come to your court, I have to sing for emperor. The moment I sing for emperor, ego will come to me, fear will come to me. If I sing wrongly, my neck will be cut. Okay. Now I am singing for God. For me, inside and outside, there's God. My music is spontaneous. So anything which you do with non-duality is spontaneous. So a musician will not become a dancer after music. Whatever his body mind complex is trained, he'll start operating without ego when he starts singing music. Understand? A musician will become a great musician after he gets down. A dancer will become a great dancer. Will become a dancer. Then what is the difference between the earlier with ego and without ego? Earlier with ego, when you were a musician or singing, he was singing for pleasing the audience, making people happy. A dancer was dancing for making people happy. There's other to make happy. But when you realize yourself, you are peaceful. You are singing out of peace. Now your music is to make people peaceful, not happy. Bring peace. Inner peace you are sharing through music. Inner peace you are sharing through dance. A guru shares inner peace through his teaching. He is not teaching. He is not teaching or singing or dancing for making people happy, because he knows happiness will come and go. Peacefulness make the mind silent. So your motivation for doing anything changes. Earlier, you were looking for happiness, so you are trying to give happiness to others to get happiness for yourself. Now you are peaceful, you are sharing peace to others. Peace is the silence of the mind. Happiness is a momentary experience of momentary experience. Happiness will be followed by unhappiness. Peace is the serenity. He is sharing the serenity in non-duality. This is what happens in case of a Gnani. So now, please remember spontaneity. Spontaneity is when ego is either suspended or ego is transcended. Whatever programmed actions are there will come out. Now, in case of a Gnani, there's a slight difference. A Pandita, a scholar, will be able to recite scriptures. All scriptures will say. And he'll give very good commentary of scriptures. Okay. Now, that is coming from your mind. Ego is filtering. Ego says, oh, this is the proper statement. This is the proper meaning. He's trying to give a unlisted of the ego. Ego is still there. He may be a good script teacher. He's still an acharya. Acharya is able to teach, but ego is there. A gatekeeper is there. Okay. Whereas a Gnani, the difference is Gnani also gives the teaching. The teaching comes without the gatekeeper called ego. The teaching is spontaneous. So what is the difference between the teaching of a acharya and teaching of a Gnani? So Gnani is teaching from not by the training of the mind. He is teaching by his own inner experience of pure awareness. A acharya or a good teacher has no inner experience. He has a learned knowledge. Knowledge is all about past. The past knowledge is communicating. The strength and confidence is not there. Whereas a guru is teaching from inner experience. For example, the teaching is Tattvamasi, you are that. Yeah, Acharya will say, as per this scripture, as this per this thing, you are that. He'll give a very logical explanation. Okay, but as per the scripture. Whereas Gnani, when he says Tattvamasi, you are that, it comes from his inner confidence. And that has they are the words of power. That the words of the power will transform. Otherwise, the words are borrowed words in case of a Acharya. So Gnani's words are spontaneous and words of inner understanding. They will flow and they have the ability to transform people. A Acharya will not deviate from the teaching. He is very, very strict. What has to be taught? Because as per the book, he has to teach. As per the scripture, he has to teach. But Gnani can deviate. Gnani can teach in any way because he is teaching not because of the books. Books he will use, of course, but he teaches because of his inner experience. His life is in the book. His life is the book. Gnani's life is the book, whereas a good teacher, Acharya, reads a book. So because Gnani's life is a book, he doesn't refer anything. And when he teaches, the words will flow like a river, Saraswati. There's no blocking. Whereas when Acharya teacher says to refer to book, shloka number so and so, meaning this one. Oh, if there's a mistake in that, what will happen? The ego is already constantly evaluating. In case of a Gnani, the ego is not evaluating because he is teaching his inner experience. So there's no ego doesn't block because he knows it's truth which is being taught. That's why we need a guru who is Shrotriyam Brahmanishta. Shrotriya means he should be able to teach. He should have a knowledge of scripture. But Brahmanishta means he should be established in Brahman. That means he should speak from inner experience. Otherwise, Shrotriya means you can learn scriptures well. From a Brahmanishta, you can transform your life because he is speaking from inner experience. When he says Tattvamasi, you are that, he has a conviction and clarity. Whereas if Acharya has no conviction and clarity, as per the scripture, it's there. That's the difference. So Gnani will say Tattvamasi, his inner conviction, then he will give the scriptures as a support. For Acharya, scriptures are the only support. Inner experience is not support. That's the difference between a teacher. Good. When I say Acharya is a good teacher. A Gnani should be a good teacher, Acharya, as well as Brahmanishta. He should have inner experience. Then only he can teach. What is the difference between a great Acharya and a Gnani? So Gnani also knows the scriptures. He also uses his memory for teaching. But the teaching comes from based on his inner experience. Then he can always deviate from the scriptures and tell the inner meaning. Whereas Acharya will not be able to, a good teacher will not be able to do. That's why we have heard a musician. A musician, as a student, he has to follow the raga very properly. Sa, re, ga, ma, sama, sama, sa, re, ga, ma, pada, ni, sa. That raga he has to should not miss. Not even one swara he has to miss. Very discipline is very important when you learn. But he has to practice. While practicing many years, he should not miss one raga. But then one day he becomes a great musician. Then he will break all the raga, all the rules he will break. Still his musical flow. Why? Now the music, he has become music. Earlier he was learning music, now he has become music. Now he can break anything. So in that sense, a Gnani is able to deviate scriptures, deviate the outer meaning of the words, and he can go to inner meaning and give the real inner meaning without getting bound by the words. He has gone beyond the words. He is speaking of inner experience. So that way, Gnani may not speak the words of the scripture, but Gnani will speak the essence of the scripture because of inner experience. A Acharya or a good teacher will teach the meaning of the scriptures, whereas a Gnani will always speak the essence of the scriptures, where beyond the words and meaning, he speaks of the essence. So his words will be coming from the deep inside. His life is the book, open book. This is the nature of Jnani. Now, his teaching is spontaneous because he doesn't see other. Why does Jnani teach us? Jnani is anybody coming to Jnani, first Jnani has repaired his mind. He has understood who is he. So when somebody comes to him, somebody is suffering, somebody is in ignorance comes to him, he doesn't see the other. He says, my own self has come to me. How? In dream, I am going in a forest. Then a tiger chases me. I start running. Okay. Then I fall into river. The tiger and river are my own reflections. My own memory is coming in the form of tiger and river. If I realize the dream, the tiger is not a tiger, it's not myself. A river is not river, it's myself. Then my life behavior will be different. So Jnani has woken up from the waking dream called Maya. For him, anybody coming to him is nothing but his own self. Now his own self is coming with the Adnana. He says, how can there be Adnana in on myself? It's like in a mirror, I have cleaned washed my face. In mirror, I see my face. Oh, there's some dust here. In my reflection, I'm able to see the dust. Let me remove the dust. He doesn't remove the dust in the mirror reflection. He removes the dust in himself. So then when Jnani teaches, oh, there's ignorance here. I am removing the ignorance from myself. So Jnani is removing the ignorance in himself. In the process, he teaches. The more students come, the more ignorance, which is residual ignorance. I'm saying some residue will be left. It's like when you clean the vessel, still some dust will be left. So Jnani has realized, and still some dust will be there, some subconscious impression will be there. Those impressions are coming in the form of students. So that he is removing. When he removes the ignorance and suffering of others, he is actually removing the vasanas and samskaras which are residual in him. He is not teaching others. Subject-object duality has to go. That is Atma Jnana. So now I have seen many people, okay, who says Atma Jnana means I have to meditate. Who am I? Inquire, who am I? I don't have to do anything in the world. It is not like that. Because world is not separate from you. World is Brahman. Yourself is Brahman. So that's why I always say, Atmano mokshartam jagaditaya. Work for your own realization. At the same time, do service. Because inner and outer has to dissolve. Inner and outer dissolves, only realization is possible. No, I have realized I'm peaceful. Then you come to the world. Again, noise comes. Because the world is still separate from you. Maybe mithya, but world is there. So the world and the self has to become one. Inner self and outer reality should become one. Aham Brahmasmi, Sarvam Khalu Brahma. The resistance called ego, which separates the inner and outer, should go. That's why I always say people split the life into two: material life and spiritual life. Life is not two. Life is neither material nor spiritual, it's divine. So then what will happen? You are transcended. Inner and outer has become one. That's why I say Atmano mokshatam jagadidaya. Self-realization and service should go together. Why service? Because when you are serving, you are seeing suffering, difficulty. Okay. In the process, you are actually discovering more your own self. You are seeing your reflection and you are discovering your own inner problems. For example, you see some person and, oh, I don't like that person because the person is very arrogant. Basically, your arrogance you are seeing in the form of other person. It's a reflection. You have to get rid of that. So the service and self-realization will go together. There are many people who believe that, okay, I have done meditation. All that I have done is 10,000 hours of meditation and sit silently. My dear, the proof of pudding is in eating. When the rubber meets the road, then only you know whether rubber is good quality. When you have bought a tire, the shopkeeper says a very good tire. When you go on the road, only you know whether the good tire is good or not. Your inner peace has to be tested in the world. Okay, Atmano mokshatam jagaditaya, self-realization and selfless service should go together. Because the gatekeeper called ego, the moment you see the world, it comes in picture. All your unconscious noises will come out. So somebody says, I'm very peaceful, I'm meditative, I'm enlightened. But when he comes to the world, all negativity comes out because it's there. He has not transcended the inner and outer. So one who has transcended inner and outer, it is a joy to be in the presence of such a Sadguru, a master. There's no inner and outer for him. Whereas the person who is very spiritual, still he feel uncomfortable because only negativity comes to his mouth, because still he has a negative view of the world. Oh, world is mithya, world is unreal. World is Brahman, he has not realized. Aham Brahmasmi, Sarvam Kavita Brahma has to realize. Then the ego, gatekeeper called ego, will become silent. No, I am Brahman, but world is unreal. So there is a problem. Because the gatekeeper comes to ego. Well, what I should do for the world? Nothing is required. Nothing is required. It's all mithya. No. The next realization is Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. The world is also Brahman. So if world is Brahman, there's no duality. When there's no duality, your actions are spontaneous. For example, a mosquito sits on your left hand. Your right hand will go and hit it because it's your own body. The service becomes spontaneous now. If somebody is suffering, you understand my own reflection is suffering. So then you'll go and try to resolve, help, because in the process, some of the unconscious impressions, vasanas which are pending in you will go. So a gnani, a jivan mukta, somebody says jivan mukta, I am free and peaceful, I don't have to do anything, then still he is blocking the subjective and objective reality. It's not complete realization. Some amount of peace you will get because you are meditating, but vasanas will remain. The world is there. Either it's mithya or real. Some impressions are there. The oneness is not there. Totality is not there. Totality is when subject-object duality goes. That's why I always say Atmano mokshatam jagaditaya is before realization. Self-less realization and self-less service. Shravana, manana, nityas atmano mokshatam. Jagaditaya service is to go together, inner and outer. And after Jnana, what happens? Jagadita is not there. Then whatever Gnani does is for Loka Kalyana. Now he doesn't do it as a charity. Please understand. Loka Kalyana is not doing as a charity. Before Gnani, you're doing as for purity. My service I am doing for purity of myself. Now Gnani does not for Loka Kalyana, for charity. He sees himself in the world. So remaining blemishes, remaining vasanas he is trying to remove by teaching. A Sadguru teaches because in the process of teaching, he is removing his residual vasanas. So that's the difference between Jivan Mukta and a Gnani, Sadguru. A Jivan Mukta says, okay, I am peaceful. Some vasanas are there, let it be there. Some negativity is there, let it be there. I don't have to do anything. So Sadguru says, oh, some residual vasanas are there. Now, people are coming to him. That's called Loka Vasana. Loka Vasana he is trying to remove. In the process, he is removing his own residual vasanas. In the process, deeper and deeper realization is happening to him in the process of teaching. The teaching helps the teacher. When you teach, you will become more and more clear. Jnana Yadna, Sadguru does the Jnana Yadna to purify himself further. He has got a Jnana, but residual vasanas are there. The vasanas will go. Some residual vasanas because of prarabdha karma. That vasanas also dissolve. So then there's a difference between Adnani. Adnani will do anything for his own vasana. Selfishness. I want this, I want this. A yogi or karma yogi or bhakti yogi or one who is involved in yoga, he does, I want to purify myself. The purpose is different. A Gnani does anything because his fundamental vasanas which are blocking realization is gone. Now he says some residual vasanas are there, prarabdha karma. That also will get dissolved when I teach, serve. In the process of serving the world, he is serving himself. The inner vasanas are getting dissolved. So a sadhaka is working for selfish vasana, individual vasana. A yogi is working for clearing the vasana. A Gnani is working for clearing the residual vasana in the form of loka vasana, teaching the world. So there is a difference. A Gnani, a yogi, and Gnani. So Gnani is spontaneous because he is speaking from his inner experience, not from books. Okay, then comes the next. Sadguru can become a Ishvara. So as vasanas reduce within Sadguru, deeper and deeper, he has no inner and outer. The inner and outer, when it dissolves, Ishvara only operates to the body-mind complex. Then in Sadguru level also there is some individuality. Ego is left. Pure ego. In Ishvara level, there is no ego left. The inner and outer gets integrated. Now Ishvara's role is much larger. Ishvara doesn't address only Jnanis. He will address the problems. Problems means dharma. he'll try to establish dharma, which is much larger than the jnana. People work for dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Dharma, artha, people who work for only artha and kama, they are called adnanis. Then people who start working for dharma. So Sadguru, when he grows into Ishvara consciousness, he'll start working on dharma also. That means he'll start building the foundation. Such a person in Jainism is called Tirthankara. Tirtham karoti tirthankaraha. What is the meaning of Tirthankara? Is Tirtha means something which purifies. Ganga purifies me. Yamuna purifies me. I go and take a holy dip. So then, in early days, I take a bath in Ganga, my sins will go. In reality, they are called Tirtha. They are called Tirtha because when you go and take a holy dip there, you'll find some people who are realized people sitting there. You go and get jnana from them. That jnana will purify you. In earlier days, they had time. If you have to go to yatra, their yatra time is 6 months. You go there, take a dip, take a bath, then stay in some ashram. In that ashram, some gnani will be there. He will give them Atma Jnana. So Atma Jnana purifies you. That's why you go Tirtha Yatra. Now we don't have that time. We fly, morning flight, take a dip, evening flight, return. No time for Atma Jnana. So these people, Tirthankara, stays near the riverbed, who will purify the Tirtha. Such a person is called Tirthankara. Tirtha becomes purified because of Tirthankara. One who purifies the Tirtha. That means Jnana purifies. Nahi Jnanena Sadasham Pavitram Udyate. Jnana alone purifies. So he is sitting there. So a Tirthankara, a great enlightened being, he is from Jivan Mukta, Sadguru, he has become Tirthankara. Jivan Mukta means somebody who has become peaceful. A Sadguru is teaching to become more, remove some residual prarabdha karma. When more residual prarabdha comes, somebody becomes a Tirthankara. It's a larger role. He establishes Tirtha. Tirtha means a system in which anybody can come and learn dharma, practice dharma, then get ready for jnana. Secret system from dharma to moksha system. A system where anybody can come and get involved in dharma, gradually purify themselves and get ready for jnana. The system is created. The system, one who creates the system is Tirthankara. Adnani to Jiva, Adnani to Yogi. Adnani is for selfish purpose, Yogi for purification purpose. Then you come say Jivan Mukta, who has realized his inner self. Then he becomes Ishvaratva and Tirthankara, established a system where both jnana and dharma can be practiced. This is the journey. So what is it doing? The earlier creation of Ishvara, entire creation of Ishvara, is from moving from unconscious to consciousness. Right? The stone is unconscious. The plant is semi-conscious. Animals are slightly more conscious. Human beings are more aware. So God sleeps in stones. God dreams in plants. God starts moving in animals. God starts living in human being, and God recognizes himself in Jnani. So entire movement of creation is from unconscious to consciousness, awareness. God realizes himself in Jnani. Who realizes? God or Brahman realizes himself through in the body-mind complex of Jnani. So entire creation is from unconsciousness to consciousness movement, awareness movement, self-awareness. Okay. So now somebody has become Jnani. He can just become Jivan Mukta. I don't want to do anything. That means he is ignoring creation. He has no ability to rise into Sadguru consciousness and Ishvara consciousness. He stops there. I am speaking of a person who has gone into Sadguru consciousness and Ishvara consciousness and probably Tirthankara, established Tirtha. So that's the next level of movement where individually are realized, then the collective realization, the society, he tries to bring Jnana. Somebody who is already getting ready, he will teach. Then he becomes Sadguru. That means people have come to, a Sadguru is like somebody who is teaching college students. So they are already passed high school and primary school. They have already practiced dharma and they have come to teaching. Sadguru teaches the college students, the higher subject, Atma Jnana. Then he says, oh my God, primary school education is problem, middle school education is problem. Let me establish primary school and middle school. That's where he established dharma. So then he has moved into Ishvara consciousness. He has gone into, from Sadguru consciousness, moved into Ishvara consciousness, where now he is trying to rectify the system, primary school, middle school education, dharma. This is how a journey is. So Ramakrishna Paramahamsa used to tell a story. There's a big wall in a city. And big wall in the city, some people climb that wall and see a beautiful garden on the other side. They'll jump into the garden, start eating fruit. They're forgetting that there's a city outside. These are called Jivan Mukta. They'll start eating the fruit of doing the circus of climbing the wall. Then he says, out of some 10 people, one person will say, sit on the wall and call other people, please come. There's a beautiful garden here, jump. Beautiful garden here, jump. That person is called Sadguru. Okay. So then, as Sadguru moves in Ishvara consciousness, he will create a ladder for other people to move easily. This is the spiritual journey. Any questions are there? Is it clear, Shravan? Anybody has any questions? Gayatri, can you unmute? Yeah. Can you unmute, please, Gayatri?
Prabhuji, namaste.
This
is Subramaniam.
Subramaniam.
Shravan's brother-in-law, Subhi.
Okay.
I have 2 questions. Can I ask now?
Yeah. So let me ask. There's one question already. I'll just answer the question. Okay. So, see, Gnani's mind is pure. His reflection should also be pure. Then how can he see suffering in his reflection? How come he is reflecting negativity? Because you said we will reflect our own vasanas. This is the question, right? So I told you, see, the question is, Gnani's mind is clear. Okay. Then how can he see suffering in the other world? How can reflections come with the suffering is the question. So I told Gnani goes through 4 stages: Brahmavid, Brahmavara, Brahmavarenya, Brahmavarishta. Brahmavid means knower of Brahman. He has realized I am Brahman. Brahmavara, Brahmavarenya, Brahmavarishta. There's progressively the 4 stages: Brahmavid, Brahmavara, Brahmavarenya, Varishta. In these 4 stages, Gnana is same, Atma Gnana is same. But vasanas or residual prarabdha karma is different. Residual prarabdha karma is different. Okay. So difference between Brahmavid, Brahmavara, Brahmavarenya, Brahmavarishta, the residual prarabdha karma is different. Because of residual prarabdha karma, society comes into picture. Residual prarabdha karma, please understand. So now, when somebody gets Gnana, there are 2 types of vasanas are there for us: Bhoga vasana and Bandha vasana. The vasanas which will block the realization is called Bandha vasana, and the vasanas which create the Bhoga enjoyment is called Bhoga vasana. In case of Atma Gnana, Bandha vasana has to go. Then only Atma Gnana can happen. Bhoga vasana can continue. Bhoga means something joyful, something suffering can still come. In the process, you will see the people who are coming in suffering. The Bhoga vasana part, Bandha vasana is gone. Understand? That gives him Gnana. That's why he becomes Brahmavid. But Bhoga vasana is still there. Something will come to him. Now it doesn't come as an individual reflection because the society is getting more and more progressively integrated the outer and inner. The vasanas will come in the form of reflection. That's why I already told a Jivan Mukta works for Gnana, works for Loka vasana, not for individual vasana. So now what happens? The Bhoga vasana will translate into Loka vasana. So it will come to him in the form of students, in the form of name and fame. Sometimes it comes somewhere blaming also. People can blame Gnani also. He can dishonor also. Honor and dishonor will come because of residual prarabdha karma. That's where he sees the Adnana. So what is Bandha vasana and what's Bhoga vasana? Bandha vasana means I am bonded. I'm in Adnana. Okay. I am suffering. I need to get mukti. Mukti will happen in some time in future. So mukti requires some XYZ condition. So all these conditions apply. It's called bandhavasana. So when you realize I am already mukta, you are not realized, you understood. Mukti is my own inner nature. Through jnana, shravana, manana, nidhyasa, seva, I have to get rid of myself. Or surrender, I have to get rid of myself. Or self-enquiry, I have to work on myself. I don't have to get it. I am already mukta. Recognition has to happen. Then your bandhavasana is gone. Then you will work for self-enquiry, self-realization. You may still have vasanas, other vasanas. Bhogavasana may be there. But bandhavasana, oh, liberation means something has to happen. It will happen once in a million times. Only great people will realize. All those will gone. I can realize myself. Okay, that vasana is gone. This is called bandhavasana. The bandhavasana is gone. Now you start working. Shravana, manana, nidhyasa, service. But bhogavasana may continue because the prarabdha karma is there. Because of prarabdha karma, he may have to get fame. He may have to get student. Okay, he may have to from jivatva, from jivan mukta to ishwaratva, he may have to rise. That's a prarabdha karma. Residue prarabdha karma. So he sees the students. That's why the students come to him. Is that answer clear? Okay. So now, Subramaniam, your question, please.
Yeah, namaste. Just that continuation of that, Prabhuji. So when the students come to the master, the master or the jnani is removing the ignorance in himself. Right. Now, let us just say in the case of duality, I as a student goes to the master, but my ignorance is not getting removed in the duality. In my case, so where is that? Is that a failure in me?
Your ignorance is not removed because you're still bandha vasana is not completely cleaned up. There are two types of vasana: bandha vasana and bhoga vasana. Bandha vasana means what causes me bondage. Okay, here the bandha vasana, first step of bandha vasana is to realize that self-realization is a clarity and purity in me. I am already liberated. I don't have to get liberation. I don't have to get mukti. So that clarity is called first step of bandha vasana. So then I have to do something about it. Is another bandha vasana. Oh, I have to meditate. I have to do something about it. Is bandha vasana. And I should do service because inner and outer is to integrated. So this is also a part of bandha vasana. So now bandha vasana residues are blocking realization. Now bandha vasana here it means there are hidden belief systems in you. Okay. First level belief system is mukti is somewhere, somebody can get it, mukti, all those things, bandha vasana. Then there's a layers and layers of belief systems are in this. That layers and layers of belief system has to be uncovered. That uncovering happens with in the presence of a good master because he can see the layers and layers, pull out the layers. That is the process of self-enquiry. Self-enquiry is not just I'll inquire myself. That's ego inquiring about itself is not self-enquiry. A real self, Atma, inquiring about the self, your ego self, is called self-enquiry. Real self-enquiry happens in the presence of a master who is the self, Atma. Then he will point out the blocks in you. The blocks get dissolved. Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yes, yes, sir. So it is a gradual process.
It can be gradual or it can be sudden, depending on, see, the belief structure in us, right? It's like a pack of cards, like this, stacked. There are a lot of hidden beliefs. There are some explicit beliefs. So initially, because of the explicit beliefs are gone, you are going to a master. But there are layers and layers of hidden beliefs are there. That hidden belief, root of the hidden belief is the sense of self. Who am I? It's like a bottom of the pack. If you pull out that, then whole pack of cards will collapse. if you are able to remove that root belief, rest of things will fall. Are you getting what I'm saying? Now, sometimes master is able to access the root belief directly because you allow. Sometimes he is not able to access the root belief because you are only allowing the outer layer of beliefs. If he is able to access the innermost layer of belief, then whole thing will collapse. Most of the time, many times we unconsciously resist that touching of the innermost layer of belief. So that's where the surrender comes to the master. Surrender. This concept of surrender comes here. So it's like when you go to a doctor, I have stomachache. Then doctor says, I have to do surgery. For surgery, you have to become unconscious. I have to make no, how can you make unconscious? What do you do after you become unconscious? I don't want to become unconscious. You do surgery when I'm conscious. Then doctor cannot do surgery because you will feel the pain. So surrender means a total surrender to the words of the Guru. Then it starts sinking in. But somewhere at some level we start resisting that. That ego will resist that. That's where the problem is. I'll tell you where it resists. Okay. Most of us, when you go to a master, we think that he is another teacher. See, we have studied physics, chemistry, physics teachers there, chemistry teachers there, biology teachers there. They're teaching a subject. So now we are going to a master to learn something. We are adding our knowledge. Earlier I did physics and chemistry. I became a physics graduate. I did masters in physics. I became masters. Now I want to become masters in self-realization. I want to gain knowledge. But when you want to go to a master, you're not going to gain a knowledge. You're dropping your ignorance. In that sense, you're dropping your belief systems, hidden belief systems. Hidden belief systems are not available to your conscious mind. It's already deep buried. The master in various ways is trying to point out the hidden belief systems in you, but you resist in some way. I mean, we'll take an interpretation in a different way. So then what will happen? The surgery doesn't go deep. That's where the problem is. Each of us will interpret our teachings in our own way. That's where two students went to a master called Brahaspati Acharya, great teacher, enlightened master. One is Devendra and the other is Asurendra. Asurendra is somebody, a king of demons. Devendra is king of devatas. So now, master, we want to realize self-realization. We do self-realization. The master says, you're not yet ready. You have to do service because you're still ego. I'm the king of gods. I'm king of demons. You do service. Now what service you do? Go and take care of my goshala. Start washing the cow. Okay, clean the what you call as goshala, that cow shed. So now imagine a king of devatas, a king of asuras working in a goshala. So that's the process of karma yoga is teaching. You have to understand you're not a king, you're not this thing, you are a student here. As a student, you are purifying yourself, you're not cleaning goshala. You're dropping your ego that I am somebody. That's called karma yoga. Karma yoga was taught as a first step in all gurukulas in the earlier days. First step is karma yoga. Then everything comes. So now, karma yoga is service. Now we don't do service. We now have not studied service. We want to really go to jnana. The ego that I am somebody is still dormant. In Japanese schools, what they do, up to 10th, 8th standard, 7th standard, the children, there's no servants in the school. The children themselves have to clean the school, clean the table. Okay. In the process, they learn this service. So if you look at Japanese people, they're community oriented. They'll 5 people come together and conclude one decision because their individuality is gone. Whereas in other countries, other places, individuality is there. If 2 people speak something, everybody fights against others because I am somebody, I'm greater than you. So in Japanese schools, they teach karma yoga in the first step, 1st standard, 7th standard. In Indian Gurukula, they used to teach karma yoga first step. When student joins brahmachari as brahmachari, first step is karma yoga. You are a son of a king, doesn't matter. You are a son of a purohit, doesn't matter. Do service. Take care of cow shed. Do some service. So now what happened? We have grown up in an environment. We don't know what is service. We don't know what is karma yoga. We suddenly want to get jnana. Now jnana is easy, no? Through internet, YouTube, through books, we get jnana. The purity of the heart is through karma yoga. That's missing. In the process, what happens? Jnana starts settling in, but jnana doesn't go into the heart level. doesn't sink into heart level. The purity is not there. Clarity is there. Clarity and purity have to be together. Is totality. Jnana. Karma yoga and Jnana yoga should go together. Atma no mokshatam jagadhiraya should go together. Self-relation, selfless service has to go together. We don't do that. So in the process, certain blocks will remain. So the Brahaspati has told Devendra and Asurendra, you both work in the quotient. Now Asurendra is the opposite of Devendra. He is an enemy. Both have to work in the quotient. They have to work together. So after 12 years, they come to the master. Please teach me. Then master takes them to the lake and sees the reflection there. That time no mirrors were there. See your reflection there. So one who sees this reflection is Atma. The teaching is same, given to both Devendra and Asurendra. Then Asurendra immediately understands, oh, one who sees the reflection is myself, my body. Body is Atma. He understood. He does namaskar to Guru and goes. He is interpreting Atma in terms of his own concept. Then he goes and he tells all his Asura friends, there's nothing called Atma. Body is the Atma. Take care of the body. Enjoy life. This is called Dehatma Buddhi. So now today in the world, Dehatma Buddhi is predominant philosophy everywhere in the world. I am the body. And this philosophy is what people are following today. Then Devendra thinks over, how can be this Atma, one who is seeing, I am the body. Body is becoming old and aged. Body cannot be Atma. Something must be there. Then he works for 96 years service. Purity, purity, purity. Then clarity comes. One who is seeing is not the body, not the mind, not the intellect, is the Sakshi, the witness. Then he realizes. Then he becomes Devendra, means divine qualities manifest through him. In Asurendra, I am the body manifested as Asuric quality, demonic qualities. Now, if you see in your mind hatred, jealousy, negativity, it is because you are following the philosophy of Asuras. Body is the self. So now it takes time because Karma Yoga has to purify, purity, clarity. They go together. That's what happened in case of Devendra. So the same teaching is given to two people, but the interpretation and understanding is different, depending on the level of purity. From Rajoguna, Tamoguna to Sattoguna have to come, pure Sattva. That's where the purity matters. Tamoguna, Rajoguna aspects have to reduce purity, and Sattoguna, intellect has to be clear, clarity. The purity and clarity gives a totality, realization. Now, realization is not a new thing. Realization is what you are. It's an uncovering of all vasanas. The same teaching can be understood in different ways by two students, different ways. Three beings came to Devendra, what you call as Brahaspati Acharya. One is a demon, one is a human being, one is a Devata. So he the same one word teaching you, Da. Da is your teaching, please go. So then each of them understood different way. The Asura said, we are cruel. Da means Daya, we should be compassionate. That's the teaching of Asura. Then human being said, oh, human beings have a lot of, we don't have control over senses. Dhamma means control over senses. Okay. So we are actually what you call as we are misers, selfish. So dana you have to give, greedy. We are greedy. Dana you have to give. Da means dana for me, human being. Devatas thought, oh, da means dhamma. We are always going after sense objects, apsaras, dancing. We have to control the sense objects. Same one alphabet called Da interpreted in three ways by three people. That way, the same teaching of the master, 10 students are teaching is sitting in classroom, they will understand 10 ways. The challenge of the master is to have develop a teaching methodology which will bring more and more clarity, and understanding is same. It's a big challenge because each person comes with different vasanas. And each person sees the life in different way also. For example, three beings, a demon, a human being, and a Devata, went to a newer riverbed. The demon sees a beautiful river. The demon says, oh, what a river of urine and blood. There must be slaughterhouse here. I'll go there and eat meat. Same river he sees as sees the slaughterhouse. A human being sees the river. Oh, it's a beautiful river. I can take the water and do agriculture. And Devata sees, oh, a beautiful river, I can come with my girlfriends, Apsaras, and swimming. Same situation can be perceived in different ways by different people because of their vasana. A challenge of a master is to communicate a teaching very clearly, in a way everybody can understand very clearly, to the extent, and they have to work towards the removal of their vasanas through service. Master can give teaching, Atma Mokshartham, teaching he can give. Shravana Manana you can do, Nidhyasa you can do under presence of master. But seva is what you have to do. Get rid of your vasanas. That will happen only when you interact with the world. Service. Inner and outer has to integrate. Right? So that's why Bhagavad Gita is taught in the war field. Bhagavad Gita cannot be taught on Himalayas. Bhagavad Gita cannot be taught on ashramas. You have to face life. In that life, service is your purification and teaching is clarity. Shravana, Manana, and Nidhyasa. The master can give the teaching. The purity is what you have to work on. Does that answer your question, Subramaniam?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, thank you. Yes. The second question is more from...
There's one more, for the first part, one more answer is there, okay? So if you understood the process, right? The clarity and purity is totality. So for purity purpose, seva. For clarity purpose, jnana. The master can give clarity in the form of jnana. And for purity, he will provide an opportunity for seva. Atma Mokshatma Jagadita provides the opportunity. So the clarity, he will try to remove your belief systems in various ways of teaching. Right? So that's one. Then there's something else happens in presence of master. So you will know instinctively the difference between an acharya and a master, a good scholar and a master. In the presence of scholar, you'll get more jnana. In the presence of a master, there's a transformation happens, deeper transformation happens. The master, when he communicates, the communication is a communion. Union means yoga, oneness. The master is a state of self. Then student is a state of reception. When students 100% receptive, there's a union happens. The state of a master and state of student become one. You become one with the master. Okay. In that oneness, there's a communion. The words are there, communication is there. Together effect. In case of scholar, only words are there, the presence is not there. In the case of master, the presence is there and communication is there. Together impact is larger. That's why it's always better to be in the presence of a master, a living master. That is the one method. So what happens is the deep silence and peace of the master starts impacting you, provided you allow it, provided you don't resist it. If you resist it, it's gone. Why will you resist? Because you think that master is teaching me another subject like physics or chemistry. Master is not teaching you another subject. Master is teaching you how to unlearn. He is not teaching you learning. He is unlearning your habit patterns, unlearning belief system. Unlearning habit patterns is called seva. Unlearning belief system is called jnana. Habit pattern, what is a habit pattern we have? I want to do everything for myself. That's called habit pattern. So that habit pattern is reversed by do something for the others without expecting anything. It's called seva. Unlearning habit patterns, samskara. Okay, that's called seva. Jagaditaya. Unlearning your belief systems is called jnana, shravana, manana, nididhyasa, exposure. So this happens in the master. In addition, the presence of the master affects. So the presence affects you, the communication affects you, so the transformation is deeper. That's why Ramana Maharshi, one question was asked to Ramana Maharshi, who is Sadguru? How do I recognize Sadguru? This is the question everybody has. How to recognize Sadguru? It's like a primary school kid saying, how do I recognize a PhD master? Impossible. So you will recognize a Sadguru when, in the presence of whom, you'll start getting a sense of peace, a deeper sense of peace, deeper sense of clarity. Presence makes a difference. That's called presence is communion. Presence and communication makes a difference, not just communication. A communication can be done by a scholar. A presence and communication happens in the master, presence of a Brahmanishta Shrotriya, a realized master who is able to communicate. Now, most of the people who come to a master, they come for learning something, a new subject. They treat the master as a what you call as a person, a good teacher. They're actually coming to a scholar, a pandita. They cannot recognize a realized master. So that's why the learning is getting not communication doesn't happen, only communion doesn't happen, only communication happens. But there are people who are mature seekers. When they come to the master, they understand there's no person there. There's only Ishvara speaking through the tongue of the master. They're looking Ishvara at the Ishvara's words in the presence of the master. The presence of Ishvara, when they see in the Guru, then the transformation is immediate. Imagine a situation where you're sitting in home, suddenly God appears in front of you with all louds, light, sound, music, dance, jazzy things. And God says you one word. That one word hits you because God is saying such a rare thing. Okay. So now, because God is such a rare thing, suddenly light, sound, music is coming and hitting you. Transformation happens. Whatever God says, you follow immediately because it's a rare event. But you take the master as for granted. You don't understand the words of the master is nothing but Ishvara's words flowing through the master. You don't recognize Ishvara there. You're recognizing a human being, a good teacher, a good person, speaking. And master doesn't have sound, music, dance effect of a God. But only God speaks through him. So if you go to a master with your deep understanding that Ishvara is speaking through the master, then transformation is very deep and very quick. If you go to a master saying he's a good human being, he's a great scholar, he talks well, and he's a very nice guy also, then transformation level is lower. Because you are treating Ishvara as a human being. But on the other hand, if you treat a human being as Ishvara, the transformation is deeper. That's why he said, Ishvaro Guru Atmeti. Ishvara himself in the form of comes in Guru, then it is your Atma Dnana. Most of the time, we go to a master for learning something, like physics or chemistry or biology. That's not surrender. Surrender is total surrender. I am surrendered to Ishvara. That has to happen in the presence of a realization. Then communion happens. Communication, union happens. Just communication won't transform you. Union transforms you. That's why living master is important. Nowadays, we rely too much on books. Books are not living. They'll give some information. Information doesn't lead to transformation because a living presence is required. That we don't recognize. How? See, for everything we need a living person. I need a living wife to live with. I need a living husband. I need a living lawyer. I need a living doctor. But I don't realize living guru is required. Living master is required. Because communion has to happen. Communication union has to happen. I take the book and information as a substitute. I become a scholar in reading books. The transformation doesn't happen because communion is not happening. Communication happens. Information happens. Transformation doesn't happen. That's why Bhagavad Gita says, Tadviddi pranipatena pariprashnena parisevaya upadekshanti jnanam jnanina tattvadarshana. If you want self-realization, go to a master. Surrender to him. Surrender to him with no resistance, internal resistance. Whatever jnana is given, if he says Tattvamasi, you are that, you are that. That's all, finished. Now we resist. How can I Brahman? There's a resistance comes. There's no resistance when you surrender. The master's words will be God's words. Pranipatena means surrender. Pariprashnena, you ask questions. If you have doubt, you ask questions. Parisevaya, do service. Service means not a service of master, service to Jnana Yadna, Sarva Jnana Yadna. Upadeshaniti Jnanam. Jnana has to be taught. Now this teaching has a communion, communication union, not just communication. Jnaninaha, Tattvadarshinaha, one who has realized the self. Tattvadarshina, he has seen himself Tattva. A scholar cannot give that Jnana. This is the process. That's why we say Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo, Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat, Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Guru is Brahma, Guru is Vishnu, Guru is Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat, Parabrahma. This attitude is there, we are realized, but this has become mere words for us. They are not reality. It's a mechanical chanting. Why Guru is Brahma? If you go to a realized master, he creates deep, intense longing for you in realization, self-realization. As Brahma, he is the creator of desire, mukti. Guru Vishnu, he helps you to protect that. He gives us systems and practices which can protect the desire for mukti. Guru Devo Maheshwara destroys your ignorance in various ways. Then you realize Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, he is Parabrahma, beyond body-mind complex. Now, many times we don't go with that understanding. That makes a difference between a mature student and immature student. A mature student, when he goes to realize master, he is like a dry wood. The moment fire falls on the dry wood, it gets burnt. Very rare are the mature students. Then there are students who are wet wood. The master says, okay, wet wood has come. Let me dry it for some time. So he gives practices for drying. That's called Seva, Shravana, Manana, Nidhyas. Wet wood will take some time, preparation time. This is the difference between the students. The difference between master is, some masters are good scholars, good teachers. Books are also good teachers. A master presence and communication transforms you. This is what Ramana Maharshi says. Any questions? Subramaniam?
No, nothing, Prabhuji. Very clear.
Okay. You had a second question also, no? One question is over. Everything over?
I think my second question is answered. At least I think I got the answer for that, Prabhuji.
Okay. What was your second question? At least I know if I don't know. Okay. Tell me what is the question?
Okay. No, you talked about the sorry, the suppression of ego and the transformation of ego.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking, I was going to ask that, does that mean, like you took the example of a tennis player who in his intense movement of being in the zone, he suppressed his ego totally.
Correct.
And he is in the zone and he is playing to his full potential.
Correct.
But the moment he gets out of that movement, that act, he is back to the ego, is back to its head.
Correct.
So my question at that time was, I wanted to ask you was, should I, who is in my current state, should I get into a series of actions which can constantly suppress my ego? But then the answer I got from you, Prabhuji, is really, it is not me getting into a series of actions which can suppress the ego, but to get into that seva, which will perhaps annihilate the ego. That is the way I understood it.
Exactly. You got a right point. Understand? So in the seva process, the ego doesn't get suppressed. Ego gets transformed. Please understand. Transform means the wet wood becomes dry wood. Ready for spark of jnana. Right question, right answer. Anybody else? Any questions?
We see is a reflection of our inner noise. That recognition has to happen.
Correct.
So then the second one is that whatever is the knowledge that has to be communicated to the physical thing. So knowledge has to go through from intellect to mind to body for that to be in complete position of for succession.
Head and heart transformation.
Head and heart transformation.
Most of the time, if just head is transformed, heart is not transformed, you'll become a good scholar.
Okay.
A Gnani is head and heart transformed. Head and heart are in sync.
So what is this process? How my head, what is there, knowledge, how should it make it physical? In some places, it is easy for me to understand.
No. The physical is service.
Huh.
So, okay, you complete the thing, then we'll come back to each of them.